Hello everyone, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another battle report, and this time I'm bringing you a game between my Khorne Bloodbound, the Blood Slaves, and an opponent's Jordan army. We'll be playing the scenario War of Storms, which you can find in the General's Handbook, but also in the book The Quest for Ghal Maraz. The objective of this scenario is to increase your territory, and as you can see in this picture, the territory starts out equally. Half the board is blue, which is the Guardian side, in this case the Jordan, and the other side, which will be my side, is red as the Corruptor. Now, in order to increase your territory, you need to move the Stormfront that you see in the middle, and there's a couple ways to go about to do this. The first is to roll a dice at the beginning of each turn before you find out who goes first. And you guys compare that total, and whoever has the highest score gets to move the Stormfront 6 inches towards their opponent's territory, thereby increasing your territory size. Now you can improve the odds of this roll-off by having at least one priest in your army. That will increase it by 1. I will be bringing the Slaughter Priest. My opponent will be bringing 2 of his Rune Lords, so that gives him the advantage because if he loses 1, he still has another to get that +1. Now, in addition to this, what I would describe as luck-based way to increase your territory size, there's also an option for you to do it which you have a little bit more control over, and that involves targeting the opposing general. At the end of each battle shock phase, you check to whether or not you wounded the opposing general, and if you did, then you can push that Stormfront 6 inches towards the opposing general's deployment zone. That does, of course, mean if you guys manage to both do it in the same turn, it becomes a wash. Also, if you manage to kill off the general, that 6 inches becomes 18 inches, which is huge. So, with a little bit of good play, protecting your general and going after the opposing one, and some luck, that's how you're going to win this game. So, in addition to all this, we brought in a couple special rules. The first is, if you pick a Guardian unit come the combat phase, and they are in the Guardian territory, they get +1 to hit. Likewise, if you pick a Corruptor unit in the Corruptor side of the territory, they get +1 to wound. So this just kind of helps snowball the action of the game and is going to be really, really bloody. Now, I would say that I think my opponent has the edge here in the beginning because he's playing Dwarves, he's slow, he has lots of shooting, and I'm playing Khorne, so I'm going to have to run towards his territory, so he may be able to benefit from this special rule early on, but if I'm able to swing the momentum towards myself, then it's really going to benefit me in the long run. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to jump into deployment right now. Now, the deployment isn't your typical deployment. The scenario calls for the Guardian to deploy everything first. So as we can see in this picture, we have 10 Longbeards on the right. There's a Jordan King somewhere in there. We have 20 Warriors screening 20 Thunders. And in the back there, you can see the first Rune Lord. As we move over to the left, you can see more of the warriors, but we have 10 of the hammers in the back. Then we have an organ gun up front, and with the organ gun, we have both an engineer and the second Rune Lord. Next, we go into my deployment. So on the left flank, we have my 3 Dragon Ogres with the Draconic Crushers. Then we have 5 Skull Reapers. Next, we see my Slaughter Priest. Next to him will be 16 Blood Reavers with Meat Ripper axes. Beside them, a little bit behind them even, is another unit of 3 Dragon Ogres, this time with Draconic Warglaives. In the forest, there are 15 Blood Warriors. Next to them, you can see the Blood Secator, and somewhere in there is my general, Ushkar Mir. And then finally, on the right flank, we have 16 Blood Reavers with Reaver axes. Fatty McFat right behind them, and right behind him, I don't even know if you can see Fatty, but right behind him is another unit of 16. And then in the front left there of that first unit is my Skull Grinder. So that's what we have for deployment. So we're going to roll off for the first turn, and the Jordan get it. Now, there's not much he's going to be able to do in this first turn. He's going to shuffle guys around. I don't even think he'll be in range to shoot, really. He does move those Longbeards back a bit into the forest, and then he opens up with the organ gun. And lucky for me, I'm always so lucky when it comes to this. The organ gun misfires twice, or just misses its shots twice. I think the engineer lets him re-roll, and he just didn't do too well. So that's what we have at this point, and we go into my turn, where I will move very aggressively. And even on the right side, you can see that one unit of Reavers moved up super fast. I believe I rolled a 6 for the run, which means they can move 12. And then since I'm running, the musician gives them an extra inch, and I also whipped them, which gives them another 3. So I believe, if I remember correctly, they did move 16 inches forward. That puts them right in the Jordan organ gun's face. So we're going to roll off for the next turn after we find out which way the Stormfront moves, and my luck continues and I win the roll off. So I get to move it 6 inches towards his battle edge, increasing my territory, so I'm gaining the lead. So we roll off to see who gets next turn, and I get it. So here we go. I move that unit of Blood Reaver Ripper Axe guys who are right next to the portal through it, and they pop out right behind the organ gun. Really need to kill that fast. As a little bit more insurance, I also bring the unit of Reavers that moved super fast the turn before right through the rocks to engage the organ gun also. And then everything else moves up as fast as I can. The only thing really falling behind are the Blood Warriors. I tried to run with them, but they only moved 1 more inch, so that puts them at a movement 6. So they're falling a bit behind, but I do like to hit the enemy in waves, so I guess it kind of works out. But really, I'm just putting a spin on this. I would have rather have made it a little bit further with those Blood Warriors. So we go into combats. I declare my charges. First, I'm going to choose the Dragon Ogres to charge the leftmost flank of this spread out warrior unit. He's not going to be able to bring too many more warriors into the combat, so I think this is going to give me the leg up here in the long run. And then on the left side, his right, I'm going to have my Meat Ripper guy, the Blood Reaver guys go through the rocks and attack the organ gun. And then I'm going to have the Meat Ripper guys attack not only the organ gun, but also the Engineer, the Rune Lord, and the Hammer unit. And I tend to get it carried away when it comes to these Meat Ripper guys because they have the -1 rend, and I think this is going to be a situation where I overestimate the amount of damage I'm anticipating. And so we go into combat, and of course I choose them first. They're engaged with the most units. I want to maximize my damage while I still can, and I end up killing maybe 3 hammers, maybe. So that did not go as well as I was hoping, but I should have expected it to go that way. Then he strikes back against the Dragon Ogres with his warriors, and again, like I predicted, not a lot of guys can get into combat, so he's not able to do too much. I try to use my Reavers to knock out the organ gun, but I can't bring my numbers to bear against it. He's kind of created a choke point. It's hard for me to keep my coherency and get around the rocks and bring all my guys into combat, so I only end up doing 1 wound to the gun itself. So this is not going to go well for me. He put the gun in a very good place. So that's what it is. He then starts attacking both these Reaver units. You can see that they're going to get pretty much eliminated completely. There's going to be a few guys left, but not much to write home about. My Dragon Ogres do strike back, and they're able to do a healthy amount of wounds, but it's not making up for my butt kicking I'm taking on the right side, or my left, his right. So that's pretty much my turn, and we're going to go into the Dwarfs next turn. So again, going into this turn, the Dwarves are going to pretty much stay pretty static. Not a lot of incentive to move around, which is okay. He is kind of being the defender player right now. And he's going to start opening up fire. And the first thing to unload its shots will be this organ gun. And he's going to target the unit that's just right in front of him, and he's going to obliterate them. The only survivor will be the champion. So he'll probably die in combat, so I don't even have to worry about break tests. So next then, we go to his riflemen, who will split their shots. Half of them will take aim at the Dragon Ogres, enough to kill 1 at least. And then the rest will take aim at the surviving Meat Ripper axes. And not many will be left except for, once again, the champion. This time, though, he won't live very long because the Engineer has his own personal gun and shoots him in the face. So after that, we're going to go into the charge phase, and the Longbeards decide to take it to the Dragon Ogres, and enough of them are able to attack to kill off the Dragon Ogres. Unfortunately, with this charge, he's able to bring my Skull Reapers into combat, and with their help, the Dragon Ogres are able to kill quite a few Dwarves, and I still feel pretty confident on the right. The Dispossessed win the initiative roll-off and choose to go first, and before he starts opening up those guns again, he's able to get the Rune Lord's special ability where he gives a unit a -1 characteristic, and that is the Thunderers. Now the Thunderers having -2 rend, and he's going to take aim at the Skull Reapers. It's so hard to remember all these names. And, well, I do pretty well. I make a lot of saves. They're 6-up saves, and he also rolls fairly poorly when it comes to wounding, and he only ends up killing 2. Now, of course, it helps that they're 3 wounds apiece, but he should have done way better than that. So, a little bit of bad luck for him. Across the board, where the organ gun is, he takes aim at my Skull Grinder right up front, trying to pick off one of my characters. And again, just a little bit under the average, and I end up with 1 wound still. But it's not over. As long as he doesn't continue with this poor below average luck here, he can take the Skull Grinder out with a charge from the hammers. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to charge the hammers into the Blood Warriors and also tag the Skull Grinder. Across the board, he's also going to charge his Warden King, or Jordan King, I can't remember what it's called, and he's going to charge that into the very last guy on my right, the last Skull Reaper. So he's trying to maximize his output while not taking too many risks on his end. So that's a pretty good idea. So going back to the fight with the hammers, he's able to kill off the Skull Grinder. I couldn't live through everything. I then take the battle all the way back over to where the Warden King is, and we trade some wounds here and there. He ends up killing the last of my Dragon Ogres. I'm able to inflict 3 wounds onto the Warden King thanks to the mortal wound ability of the Skull Reapers. And of course, I kill off some more warriors. So things are still, I think, looking well, especially with the 3 wounds I put on the Warden King. He was the biggest scare over there, but now that he's halfway dead, I think I still have the right in my grasp. So then we return back over to where the hammers struck the Blood Warriors and the Skull Grinder, and while he was able to kill the character and kill off 1 Blood Warrior, that's still 14 more Blood Warriors, and it's a little too much for 10 hammers to handle, and I'm easily able to take them out. So that's where the game turn ends here, and we're going to go into my next turn. Right before we go into the hero phase, we have to move the token, because I did wound the general 3 times in the turn before, and at the end of the Battle Shock phase, I get to move it 6 inches forward, thereby increasing my lead again. But this time I've earned it. The other times was all luck. This time I did something to earn that, so I like to take a little bit of pride in that. After that, we do go into the hero phase, and Slaughter Priest Orto decides he's going to try to boil the blood of that Warden King, but unfortunately for him, he hasn't even bothered to swing his axe, and frankly, Khorne doesn't like it when you try to weasel your way into a kill. He wants you to get nice and bloody, so as punishment, he boils the Slaughter Priest's blood, and I inflict maybe 1 or 3 wounds. We'll just say 3 because that's typically what happens, and he ends up not doing anything. Otherwise, besides that, we have Ushkarmir travel through the portal and pop out right behind the organ gun, getting ready to attack that Rune Lord. I still haven't killed the organ gun, and I also bring forward some more Blood Reavers to engage the organ gun that I'm having a hard time killing. The Blood Warriors, I didn't notice this in the pictures before, but it looks like I am pinned in place, and now that I think about it, I do remember this. He had 1 hammer left after all that, and so he's pinned me in place, and so everything else is moving forward without the Blood Warriors. I do also move forward with the Dragon Ogres because I need to finish off that Warden King in the good old-fashioned combat, and that's where we start. We charge there, and then across the board, we also charge Ushkarmir into the Rune Lord and the Reavers into the organ gun. So we start off with combats. I start with my Dragon Ogres because I know that the Warden King, if he rolls average, will probably do some major wounds to me, and I want to get as many wounds as I can before I predictably lose my Dragon Ogres. And we do pretty well. We knock him down to 1 wound. I had hoped to actually kill him, but I'll take that too. And he actually fluffs on his way back, so it's looking pretty good for me now. Across the rest of the board, we have the Blood Warriors finish off that lone hammer. Ushkarmir puts a couple wounds on the Rune Lord. Unfortunately, he takes the wounds back, and then leaves us with the Blood Reavers against the gun, and I do some superficial wounds to that organ gun, and otherwise it's still going to fire on me next turn. So that's pretty much for combat, and we're going to roll up to see who gets the next turn. And so, similar to the turns before, we need to roll off to see who gets to move the Stormfront. Now, bear in mind, last turn we both hurt each other's generals, so that move canceled out. I could have moved it forward and he moved it back, or vice versa. This time we roll off, and once again, my luck continues. It's like it's fate, actually. No more, it's not luck anymore, it's just fate. I win and I push it 6 more inches. And I'd have to say this is almost an unsurmountable lead I have. But he could always kill my general and push it back 18, and then he just needs to roll better than I do in the coming turns. So after that, I do get the first turn, lucky me, and if I were to describe my battle plan happening in waves, which it wasn't completely planned, but that's how it worked out, the first wave would have been the 32 Reavers and the first unit of Dragon Ogres. The second wave would have been the Skull Reapers, the last unit of Reavers, and the second unit of Dragon Ogres. Well, then this is my third wave. The Blood Warriors finally make it to the main battle line of the Jordan, and man, do they do a number. They strike in there, and they kill so many of them. And that's mostly because I now have most of the territory on the board, and that's a +1 wound bonus that I get for all my combats that happen in my territory. So that helps a lot. We go to the combat with the Dragon Ogres, and even though I have the +1 boost, I'm not able to get through his armor, and so he lives there. I only had to do one more wound, but I just couldn't pull it through, and in return, he kills off one of my Dragon Ogres. So that's going to pretty much end my turn. Oh, except for the combat with the organ gun, I do finally manage to whittle away that last one on the gun, and now I'm finally in combat with the crew. Couldn't get in there before because the terrain was just keeping me from being able to wrap around the rocks to get to them, considering that I have to stay in coherency. So we go into his turn, and the Warden King decides, you know what, I'm on 1 wound left. I need to back up out of here before I fail an armor save. And that's what he does, and maybe he'll get the next turn and get to move even further away. He goes into the shooting phase, and those Thunderers just take point-blank shots at the Blood Warriors after they demolish many of the warriors, and they take quite a few casualties. So after that, we do our combats. I'm able to finish off the warriors, and that's pretty much it. And we're going to go see who gets the next turn. The roll-off to see who gets to move the Stormfront ends up being a tie, so nobody gets to move anything. And so we go into my hero phase. And now the Slaughter Priest Orto is like, hey, come on, Khorne. This guy, that Jordan guy that you protected last time because I was being a coward, look at him. He's running away. He's being more cowardly than me. At least I was trying to kill something. And so Khorne's probably like, yeah, you know what? You got a point there, so I'll help you out this one time. And so that's what happens. He prays to Khorne and boils the blood of that cowardly Warden King, and it was just enough mortal wounds to lay him flat on the ground. And frankly, that's pretty much where the game ends. I'm at 54 inches across the board. When we get to the Battle Shock phase, I get to move it 18 inches across, and once it hits that board edge, I win the game. We do play on to see if he's at least able to kill off my general just to kind of thwart that immediate win, but he's not able to cancel it out. He's not able to kill off my general, so that's pretty much where the game ends. So with that, the Blood Slaves win the game. So it was a lot of fun. This is the first game of, I think, going to be 4 games in total. We've already knocked out 2 more. This is the game that was pretty much just setting the tone. We were battling over a territory. Khorne came out on top, so now he's going to pillage around, steal some artifacts, and that's what's going to lead us into the next game. So be sure to check in on that if you enjoyed this one. The quality of the pictures are not great here. It's because I'm playing in my basement, and I thought the lighting would be great, and it's just not up to par. I recently just bought some great lamps to put around the table, but they're not going to show up for the next 2 reports. So I'm sorry if you're actually watching the videos that the pictures are just not to the greatest compared to some of the other stuff I've taken. But I have solved the problem since then, so please don't hold it against me for too long. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really appreciate everybody's likes and subscriptions. Feel free to comment below, and until next time, probably this weekend, unless something unforeseen happens, I'll have another one out. See you guys. Bye.